Have you ever had that moment, that little jolt of panic when you realize you're late?
Oh, definitely.
And then you're scrambling, trying to figure out what to say, how to explain it.
Yeah, finding the right words. Today we're actually going to dive into that, into the language people use when they're late.
It's surprisingly interesting, isn't it? How everyday situations like being late reveal so much about communication.
And about, social rules, expectations, even how we think about time itself.
Exactly. And we're using a great source for this. It's a conversation from the English Podcast Zone YouTube channel, episode 6, called I'm Sorry English Learning Podcast Conversation.
Right, so the idea isn't just, here are some phrases to use. We want to look at the dialogue they discuss.
Yeah, see how people actually explain being late.
And figure out what works, what doesn't, and why. It's about understanding the nuances.
It's like getting a shortcut, isn't it? Not just learning the words, but grasping the unspoken stuff behind them, the cultural bits too.
And maybe think a bit about what our excuses, or how we react to them, say about our own values. Like, how important is punctuality?
Good point. So this source we mentioned, it sets up a perfect little scene. You've got a boss, a meeting's supposed to start at 10 a.m.
And it's already 10:15.
Right, 10:15. The boss is not happy. And then we get a few employees showing up late, one by one, each with a reason.
Yeah, and the YouTube hosts analyze the language they use, and they also get into some of those bigger cultural differences around time.
So it's like a case study. We see the language in action, and then we get the analysis of what it means culturally, too.
Exactly, dissecting a real-life kind of scenario.
Okay, so the scene opens. Boss is clearly annoyed, 15 minutes late. First, we hear about Jo. She actually called ahead, which is good. What did she say?
Jo's message was pretty concise. She said she'd be there in a sec because she got tied up with a client.
Got tied up with a client. That sounds familiar, like a standard professional excuse. What does got tied up really signal?
It basically means you were busy, like really engaged with something you couldn't just drop. The source gave examples like got tied up at the office or on the phone.
Right.
The image is almost like you're, tied by a rope to something important, unavoidable.
It implies it wasn't just dawdling, it was something significant holding you back. Okay. Then Jess arrives. Her excuse sounds a bit more dramatic.
Yeah, Jess blamed a huge traffic jam on the highway.
Okay, traffic jam, common enough.
But she added it was because of a huge pileup, and that the traffic was backed up for miles. That's huge in there.
Huge pileup. What exactly is a pileup in this context? It sounds messy.
It is. A pileup means an accident involving lots of cars, not just two, maybe, crashing into each other.
Oh, wow.
The source mentioned the image of cars piled on top of each other, which might be a bit literal, but it gets the idea across. It's serious, caused major delays.
So it clearly explains the huge traffic jam, cause and effect. Makes sense. Okay, then there's Scott. He also called.
Yes, Scott called too. He said he was running late because his last meeting ran over. But he added, on his way.
Running late. That's another one you hear all the time. What's the specific function of saying you're running late?
It's just a very direct way to say, I will be late. The YouTube hosts pointed out how common and sort of native sounding it is.
Right.
Just say, sorry, I'm running late. Maybe add a quick reason like traffic.
Yeah.
Or like Scott, my meeting ran over. It manages expectations.
It's like raising your hand saying, acknowledged I'm not on time. And Scott's reason was his meeting ran over. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, ran over just means it went longer than planned. A meeting, an appointment, anything scheduled.
So it implies a previous commitment delayed him, kind of out of his control maybe?
Exactly. It creates that knock-on effect. One thing runs late, makes you late for the next.
Okay, those are the main excuses. Now, the YouTube hosts also dug into some finer points, didn't they? Like that phrase Jo used, be here in a sec. What's the real time frame there?
Right, in a sec. It definitely doesn't mean 1 second.
Ha, figured.
It's an exaggeration. The host explained it means very soon, maybe within a minute, perhaps a couple of minutes. It's about reassuring someone you're almost there. Imminent arrival.
So it's more about conveying speed than actual clock time. How's that different from saying, I'll be there in a minute? Is there a difference?
There can be, yeah.
Yeah.
It's subtle. The source suggested in a minute might imply a slightly longer wait, maybe, 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
In a sec feels more immediate, more like right away, even if it's still not literally a second. In a minute gives a tiny bit more breathing room, maybe.
Interesting. Those little nuances. Now, Jess, when she finally got there, the boss asked if she was stuck in traffic. What does stuck it add?
Stuck in traffic
Hmm.
really emphasizes the feeling of being completely stopped, immobilized,
Right.
like you physically cannot move because of the congestion. It stresses the lack of control, the feeling of being trapped by the situation.
Yeah, you can picture it, just sitting there. And she elaborated with, traffic was backed up for miles. What image does that create?
Oh, that paints a picture of a really long line of cars. Not just a little jam, but vehicles stopped, stretching way back, often because of something major like that pileup she mentioned.
So it confirms the scale of the problem, not just a minor delay.
Exactly. It justifies the significant lateness.
Okay, so we got the phrases down, but the hosts rightly pointed out that how we feel about lateness, how we react, isn't the same everywhere. This brings us to the cultural stuff.
Yes, and this is where it gets really fascinating, I think. Punctuality means different things in different places.
Let's start close to home. For many listeners, maybe North America, Canada, the US. What's the general vibe around being on time?
Well, generally in North America, punctuality is pretty valued, especially at work.
Right. Meetings start on time, or they're supposed to.
Exactly. And being ready to work at the start time is often the expectation, not just arriving then. Socially, maybe a bit more relaxed. Being a few minutes late for a party, usually okay.
So work time is stricter than social time. What about the idea they mention Latino time or Hispanic time? How does that differ?
Right, they brought that up. In many Latin American or Hispanic cultures, there's often a more flexible, fluid approach to time, especially socially.
Okay.
A 9 p.m. dinner invite might mean people actually show up around 9:3, maybe even 10. Eating happens later still. It's just a different rhythm.
So it's not necessarily rude, it's just expected.
In many social contexts, yes. For meetings, it might also mean there's a bit more of an understanding that people might trickle in, a sort of informal buffer. Less rigid, perhaps.
Interesting. And then the German perspective, often cited as being very punctual.
Oh, absolutely. The stereotype holds pretty true according to the source and, well, general perception. Punctuality is highly valued in Germany. Work, social life, everything.
So being late is generally a bigger deal there.
Yes, it's often seen as disrespectful or unprofessional. If a meeting's at 10, you're there, ready at 10.
Quite a contrast. The source also mentioned variations even within North America in different workplaces.
Yeah, that's true. While the overall trend is towards punctuality, some workplaces might have a kind of unwritten rule, a little grace period, maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
But many others, especially now, expect you to be not just at work, but working right at the start time. Like 9 a.m. means boots on the ground, ready to go.
So the key takeaway is that on time is really relative, isn't it? It depends so much on the culture, the situation, the specific workplace.
Absolutely. You really need to understand the local norms. What's fine in one place might cause problems in another. It's crucial for, getting along and being effective.
And the hosts had a suggestion for listeners to explore this more, right?
They did. They encouraged people to share their own experiences on the English Pod website. Talk about how time and lateness are viewed in their countries.
That's a great idea. It creates a real conversation.
Yeah, a cross-cultural look at time.
Okay, so just to quickly run through those key phrases again. If you're delayed, you might say you got tied up, or there was a traffic jam, maybe a pileup.
Or you could just say you're running late because something, like a meeting, ran over.
And to describe the situation, maybe be there in a sec for very soon, or being stuck in traffic if you're stopped, or that traffic was backed up for miles if it's really bad.
Exactly. And always remembering that how these phrases land depends a lot on the context, the culture, who you're talking to.
Definitely. So here's something to maybe think about after this. In our world, which feels like it's always speeding up, always focused on efficiency, what does how we handle lateness, our own or others, actually reveal? Does it say something about our balance between work and life?
Or maybe how much we value fixed schedules versus, say, human connection or unexpected things happening.
Right. Or even how much control we think we have or should have over our time. In this push for productivity, is there still a place for, a bit more flexibility with the clock?
That's a deep question, something definitely worth mulling over.